Hello students, all is well. Welcome you all in social science class and I Shahnaz Ansari. And today we are going to learn chapter 4 of civics, that is understanding laws. So let's start the chapter with the important topics which we will be discuss in this chapter. First we will see the introduction of the chapter, then we will discuss how laws are made, do laws applies to all, how do new laws come about, or role of the people in lawmaking. Then we will discuss what are the unpopular and controversial laws, and last we will conclude the chapter. So students, now let's start the chapter. First tell me, do you know what are laws or what do you mean by laws? Students, the system of rules which a particular country or community recognizes as regulating the action of its members and which it may enforce by the imposition of penalties are called laws. When we say that constitution is the foundation of laws, we do not mean that nothing in it can be changed or that no new laws can be made. What we mean is that any new laws that is made must abide by the spirit of the constitution. Laws are basic rules and guidelines for living in society. Students, imagine playing a game of football without any rules. There would be no concept of team and no concept of goals. No time limits, no fouls, no penalties, no referees. Accordingly, there would be no wins or no loss or a result. You cannot play any games in this way. Similarly, even inside a house, a family maintains some rules. There is a routine which is to be followed, which is controlled by the head of the family. There is a time to play, time to study, maintain correct noise levels, respect elders, eat timely and properly, and so on. So rules, whether oral or written, have to exist for smooth functioning of our daily lives. Why we need the rules? We need the rules to exist for smooth functioning of our daily lives. On similar lines, the society which has large number of people has to have some rules to abide by, or else would not be a healthy and fair environment to live in. On similar lines, the society which has a large number of people has to have some rules to abide by, the else it would not be a healthy and fair environment to live in. If everyone start to live in his own way, they would turn into something like animals living in a wild jungle. This is why any civilized society frames some laws, and then it has to have its own system to enforce the laws and bring the defaulters to book. Once the society frames the laws, they should be applicable to all, irrespective of caste, creed, economic or political power. Now, we will understand what is rule of law. The rule of law states that all laws apply equally to all citizens of the country and no one can be above the law. The law is equal and similar for all, be it a government official, a wealthy person, or even the president. None of them are above the law. So the real meaning of rule of the law is no one is above the law. Now here is a question, what is the difference between rule and rule of law? So student, a rule is an established principle, a standard or a guide for action. Rules are essential for efficient and proper governance of a country. And the rule of law implies that no one is above the law. Students, now we will discuss how laws are made. As you know that Parliament is the supreme law making body in our country. Parliament is the supreme law-making body in our country. The state legislatures can also make some laws, but these laws are applicable only in the state concerned. Besides, the state legislature can make law only on some limited matter that are mentioned in the state list. State list includes law and orders, healthcare, transport, etc. And the concurrent list, it includes the education, electricity, drugs and poisons and many more. Only the union legislature can make laws on the subjects mentioned in the union list, and union list include defense, foreign relation, railways related law. It can also make laws on matters covered in the concurrent list. The under special condition, it can make laws on matters in the state list. So students, a bill can be introduced in either house by any member. The only exception is a money bill that we have discussed in the last chapter in the parliament, which can be introduced only in the Lok Sabha by a member of government. The member who introduced the bill makes a speech explaining the purpose of the bill, and copy of the bill is distributed among all the members so that they can become acquainted with it. This is called the first reading of a bill. During the second reading, members discuss the bill thoroughly and make suggestions for changes. The final form of the bill, after incorporating the necessary changes, is presented before the House during the third reading, and the bill is put to vote. If the majority of the members present in the House of the bill, the bill is passed. It is then sent to the other House, where it goes through the same stage. The second House may pass the bill, in which case the bill is sent to the President for his or her approval. The second House may also send the bill back to the House where it originated with suggestion for change. If these suggestions are not acceptable to the House, the President summons a joint session of two Houses and the bill is put to vote. If the majority of the members present vote in favor of the bill is passed and sent to the President. In case of a money bill, the suggestions made by the Rajya Sabha are not binding on the Lok Sabha and no joint session is summoned. So the Lok Sabha is more powerful in this case. Once a bill is passed by the both houses, it is sent to the President. The President may suggest some changes and send the bill back. However, if the Parliament does not accept these changes and return it to the President has no option but to sign it. After the President signs, a bill becomes an act or a law. So it was the process how a bill becomes an act or law. Students, now we will discuss, do laws apply to all? Here is a situation is given, so we have to discuss this situation. What do you think about this? Like a government official help his son go into hiding because his son has been given a 10-year jail, sentenced by a district court for a time that he has committed. Do you think that the government official actions were right? Should his son be exempt from the laws just because his father is economically and politically powerful? So, it is clear case of the violation of law. As you read before also, the members of the Constituent Assembly were agreed there should be no arbitrary exercise of power in the independent India. They therefore instituted several provisions in the Constitution that could be established the rule of law. The most important of these was that all persons in the independent India are equal before the law. The law cannot discriminate between persons on the basis of their religion, caste or gender. What the rule of the law means is that the laws apply equally to all the citizens of the country. No one can be above the law. Neither a government official, nor a wealthy person, nor even the president of the country is above the law. Any crime of violation of law has specific punishment as well as process through which the guilt of the person has to be established. But was it always like this? I think no. In ancient India, there was an innumerable and often overlapping local laws. Different communities enjoyed different degrees of autonomy in administrating this law. Among their own, in some cases, the punishment that two persons received for the same crime varied depending on their caste background. With other castes being more harshly penalized, they slowly began to change as the system of law began to further evolve during the colonial period. It is often believed that it was the British colonialists who introduced the rule of law in India. Historians have disputed this claim on several grounds, two of which include: the first is that colonial was arbitrary. So students first understand the meaning of arbitrary. Arbitrary means repressive, oppressive or coercive. Or in simple word we can say ruling or controlling people by the use of force, violence or by laws that put unreasonable limits on their freedom. That is called arbitrary. So they believed that the colonial laws was arbitrary. The second, that the Indian nationalists played a prominent role in the development of legal sphere in the British. One example of this arbitrariness that continued to exist as a part of British law is the Sedition Act of 1870. The idea of the sedition was very broadly understood within this act. Any person protesting or criticizing the British government could be arrested without due trial. Indian nationalists began protesting and criticizing this arbitrary use of authority by British. They also began fighting for greater equality and wanted to change the idea of law from a set of rules that was forced to obey to law as including ideas of justice. By the end of the 19th century, the Indian legal profession also began emerging and demanded respect in colonial courts. They began to use law to defend the legal rights of Indians. Indian judges also began to play a great role in the making decision. Therefore, there were several ways in which Indians play a major role in the evolutions of the rule of law during the colonial period. With the adoption of the constitution, these documents served as the foundation on which our representative begins making laws for the country. Every year, our representative pass several laws as well as revise existing ones. Like in your book in the 6th class, you have read about the Hindu Succession Amendment Act 2005. According to this new law, according to the amendment, now the son, daughter and their mothers can get an equal share of the family property. Similarly, new laws have been enacted to control pollution and provide employment. Now, how do people come to think and propose that a new law is necessary? You will read more about in the next part.